Hello there, my dear sleepy listener. Welcome. You've arrived at the edge of something quiet, a soft, familiar pause between doing and dreaming. And tonight, we're going to drift into a mystery that touches every breath you take, but rarely makes a sound. What happens to time when you fall asleep? Not time in your phone or on your wall. Not the numbers, but the feeling, the weight, the way a minute can last forever or vanish before you blink. Tonight, you'll float gently through the folds of the night to explore how time melts, stretches, and sometimes disappears the moment your eyes close. But before we begin, before you drift away into peaceful slumber, please take a moment to like this video, leave a gentle comment about your favourite moment of science, and subscribe to keep these bedtime stories coming. And if your eyes aren't too heavy, share your location and time zone in the comments. It's always lovely to know where across this spinning earth you're listening from tonight. Now, dim the lights, get cozy, and let your curiosity float alongside the stars. You're lying still now. The room is quiet, the cover's soft. Somewhere, a clock ticks, tick, tick, tick. You feel it keeping time, but something else is happening inside you. Time is beginning to loosen. The steady drumbeat you followed all day, appointments, screens, steps, conversations is fading. And in its place, a new rhythm rises. It's not measured in seconds. It doesn't tick. It breathes. You don't hear it, but you feel it in your limbs growing heavy, in your thoughts dissolving at the edges. This is the threshold between wakefulness and sleep, a place with no firm borders. Scientists call it the hypnagogic state. It's not fully waking, and it's not quite dreaming. It's a suspended moment where time does strange things. Have you ever felt yourself falling only to jolt awake in a second, or watched an entire dream unfold in what felt like hours, only to wake and realize just minutes have passed in the hypnagogic doorway? Your brain begins to untether itself from the external clock. It starts to float inside its own internal time. Your senses soften. The sound of the fan becomes a lullaby. The ceiling fades to darkness. The weight of the day falls away from your chest. And you notice not with words, but with feeling that time is beginning to stretch. In waking life, your brain uses a network called the default mode network to track the passage of time. It loops through memory, connects events, organizes now and later into a sensible line. But as sleep approaches, that network dims. Like a city at night, its lights go dark one block at a time, and in their place, dream roads begin to rise. You're slipping now into your first descent of sleep, stage 1. A light drift, like laying back on water. Your muscles twitch, your thoughts blur. You may hear things that aren't there. The crackle of a voice, the thump of a step. Not hallucinations, just your brain testing its dreamscapes before it fully lets go. Time in this moment is no longer steady. It ebbs, it sways, like a boat tied loosely to a dock, rocking gently with a pull of a tide you can't quite see. And yet, you don't feel lost. You feel carried. Because time in sleep is not measured by clocks. It's measured by cycles, by waves of brain activity, by the gentle looping from one stage to the next. You may not remember it, but tonight, as every night, you'll pass through these cycles 4 or 5 times, each one about 90 minutes long, a dance of light and deep sleep, of dreams and rest. But while your body follows this rhythm, your mind lets go of its grip on time, and in that release, something beautiful happens. time becomes personal. Not external, not ticking, but flowing inside you, like breath, like thought. You will dream tonight, and in those dreams you might visit an old friend, run through childhood fields, or sail oceans that don't exist. And when you wake, if you remember it at all, you'll wonder, how did all of that fit into a single night? Or more strangely, why do I feel like I wasn't gone at all? Because sleep is where time ceases to belong to clocks and begins to belong to you. So settle in now. Let go of the hours. Let go of the ticking. You are entering the timeless part of yourself, the place where sleep meets the stars. You are still now, nestled softly beneath blankets. As the edges of your awareness begin to melt, you're not quite dreaming yet, but you're no longer fully awake. There's a strange floatiness here, a lightness in the mind, as if your thoughts are made of feathers and the room is slowly tilting. This is not sleep, not yet. It's something in between, a narrow passage with no doors, just curtains of mist and flickers of images you didn't mean to think. This is the hypnagogic state, the dreamy slipstream that welcomes you into sleep's deeper waters, and here, seconds no longer behave. You might see flashes of memory, your grandmother's hands, a train station you passed once in rain, the smell of apples from a childhood autumn, all stitched together into a tapestry your waking mind can't explain. These moments don't follow a timeline. They swirl, they shimmer, they dissolve before you can ask how long they lasted. Because in this state, your brain begins to shed its attachment to linear time. You drift deeper now. A noise in the room stretches for miles. A single second feels like a tunnel, and that's not imagination. Your brain's perception of time is actually shifting. Scientists have studied this state. They've seen how the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic, sequencing, and time judgment, goes quiet, not asleep, just softened, like a hand letting go of the wheel. With it goes your inner narrator, the voice that tracks what happens next, the one that says, "This came before that, this will come after." That voice quiets, and without it, time becomes less of a story and more of a song. Notes come and go, but the melody lingers. You don't need to know how long it's been playing. You only need to feel where you are. You drift through a moment now that isn't on a clock. You're walking through a field that may not exist. You're holding something in your hands, you don't know what. It's warm. You care about it. And then you're back, still in your bed, still listening, still breathing. But for a heartbeat, you are outside of time. This is one of sleep's quiet miracles. You don't have to travel anywhere. You don't even have to close your eyes all the way. Time will begin to unfasten the moment your mind stops insisting it be measured. You may have felt this on long car rides, watching trees pass, losing track of minutes, or in the shower, with water pouring and no clear idea how long you've stood there, or lying on the grass, watching clouds move with no concern for schedule. These are all echoes of the hypnagogic, a state not defined by sleep, but by softness. And when you enter it, you're no longer counting time. You are inside it. You become it. You drift now into patterns, geometries, and colours that flicker behind your eyelids. These are not hallucinations. They are phosphenes, a natural phenomenon your brain paints when visual input goes quiet. You may see shapes, faces, landscapes made of light. They will not last. They are not meant to. They are bridges carrying you from one kind of awareness to another. And as they rise and fall, you become aware that time is breathing with you, not ticking, not racing, just exhaling, letting go. You feel yourself dropping into the next layer of rest. The curtain has not closed, it has simply become transparent. And on the other side, stillness. So rest now, my quiet voyager. The seconds will wait. The minutes will soften. There is nothing to keep track of anymore. Only this. Only now. Only the gentle unshaping of time as you fall slowly, sweetly, into the arms of sleep. You are drifting now deeper than the surface stillness. Not quite floating. Not quite sinking, just slowly circling down like a leaf gliding through dusk. Your breath is softer. Your limbs are heavier. Your thoughts no longer feel like they belong to the day. You've left the shore behind, and now, without even noticing, you've entered the architecture of sleep. It has structure, this place, invisible but precise. A rhythm as old as mammals, as natural as tides. You're inside your brain's secret night schedule. It doesn't use clocks, it uses cycles, each one a journey through different layers of awareness. You'll complete 4 or 5 of them tonight, each one about 90 minutes long. But here's the secret, you won't feel them. Not the way you feel hours at work or minutes in traffic. You don't move through these cycles like a passenger on a train. You move like a wave looping inwards, then rising again, down, deeper, and up, toward dreams. You're in the first cycle now. Stage 1 was your entryway, the gentle tipping point, that moment when wakefulness lost its grip. Then came stage 2. That's where you are now. This is where your body truly begins to let go. Your temperature drops, your heart slows, your muscles twitch once or twice before falling silent, and your brain, well, it starts to hum a new kind of song. It produces sleep spindles, sudden bursts of electrical activity, like tiny sparks firing in the dark. They protect your sleep from outside noise. They keep you from waking at every creak of the house or sigh of the wind. You don't hear them, but they're there guarding the borders of your rest. Then, slowly, you descend into stage 3. This is slow wave sleep, also called deep sleep. Here, your brain waves become long and low. Delta waves, they're called. They roll like gentle thunder. In this place, time hardly moves, or at least you don't feel it move. There is no thought, no story, no self, only stillness. Some scientists believe this is when your brain cleans itself. It clears out toxins, strengthens memories, rebuilds pathways. Others say it's like the earth rotating under starlight, a quiet, necessary rhythm that keeps everything in balance. But you don't need to know that. You only need to know that this place, this deep quiet, is where your body begins to heal. And yet, even here, time isn't absent. It's just different. You're not tracking it. You're being it, flowing with it like water in a tide pool. After a while, though, you won't notice it. You begin to rise again. The cycle continues. The loop begins to curve back up, and soon you will reach REM sleep, a place where dreams bloom like galaxies and time spins on its side. But that comes later. For now, you're still inside your first full loop, and here, time isn't counting down, it's dancing, in and out, up and down, forward and inward, like a spiral staircase with no top and no bottom. Your brain knows this dance better than you do. It's been practicing since before you could remember, since before you knew what a clock was. Even babies, still cradled in starlight and breath, move through these cycles, because sleep is not a break from time. It's where time goes to become something else. Not linear, not logical, but liquid. And tonight, you are floating in that liquid rhythm. Let it carry you. Let it turn without your help. You don't need to remember how many cycles you've had. You don't need to know what stage you're in. Your body knows. Your mind knows. Even if you don't. So rest now, gentle traveller. The night is long in the most beautiful way. Not because it stretches, but because within it are loops upon loops of timeless healing. Let yourself fall. Let yourself rise. Let time be a spiral you don't need to climb. You're rising now, gently, without effort, not awake, not aware, but lighter. You've slipped down through the first dreamless depths, and now you're climbing without knowing it, like mist drawn upward by invisible warmth. You are entering REM sleep, rapid eye movement, the theatre of the dreaming mind, the place where images unfurl without logic, where people reappear you haven't thought about in years, where you might fly or cry or walk through a city made entirely of doors, and somehow none of it feels strange while you're inside it, because here time has stopped playing fair. In REM, the brain becomes a trickster of time. The boundaries that hold before and after soften, sequence phrase. Moments collapse into each other like waves folding into foam. You may dream for what feels like hours, a reunion, a journey, a lifetime lived, and yet, in waking time, only 2 minutes may have passed, or less. You drift now through a memory of such a dream. You were in a hallway that never ended. You opened a door and were 7 again. You climbed a tree and it became an ocean. You spoke but made no sound. You understood everything without a single word. Was that 10 minutes? Was it a night? Your brain doesn't say. Because in REM, the part of your mind that keeps time, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, goes quiet. It's like turning off the watchmaker inside your head, and in its silence, the dreamer takes over. This dreamer does not track hours. It paints. It composes. It dances with memory and emotions and symbols without ever needing to ask what time it is. You float now into a dream. It may not be yours, but it welcomes you. You walk through a desert made of pages. Each one holds a face, or a whisper, or a day you thought you'd forgotten. You're not in the past. You're not in the future. You're in a moment that feels like always. Your breathing changes in REM. It becomes quick, shallow, irregular. Your heart responds. Your muscles go still, a kind of temporary paralysis, so your body doesn't act out what your mind is creating. And while you appear asleep from the outside, inside, you are living a story that bends the arrow of time. You may dream backward. You may meet your childhood self and speak to them as your older self never did. You may leap forward not in prophecy, but in possibility, seeing events not as they will be, but as your mind imagines they could be. Some neuroscientists say REM is how your brain practices reality, that it runs simulations to prepare you for what might come. Others believe it's emotional housekeeping, that REM allows you to untangle the knots the day left behind. But no one is entirely sure. Some people don't remember dreaming at all, and yet they pass through REM every single night. The theatre performs with or without an audience. You're moving through it now. Your eyes dart beneath your eyelids, tiny movements tracing scenes you won't remember in the morning, and yet the effects linger. Some dreams leave behind an emotion that follows you like perfume. You wake with wonder, with sorrow, with joy that arrived from nowhere. That's REM, moving through your time like wind through tall grass. You never see the breeze, only its ripple. You float now between REM cycles. They grow longer as the night continues. The first may last just 10 minutes, but by morning, your final dream may stretch close to an hour. An hour of story, crafted without dialogue. An hour of timelessness held inside a sleeping skull, and still, you never feel the clock tick, because REM is not ruled by numbers. It is ruled by presence. You're not watching time here. You're inside it. So let yourself drift. You do not need to know how long this moment will last. It is already enough that it is happening. You are in REM now. You are dreaming, even if you do not see it, even if it vanishes when you wake. It was yours. It was time, unmeasured, offered to you like music with no beginning and no end. You drift now inside a memory that never happened, at least not in the way time understands. You were standing on a hill. Perhaps the wind was cool. You remember how it curled around your ankles, how the sky was the colour of deep water with no shore in sight. In the dream, you walked for hours. You met someone. You talked. There were stars. There was snow. You laughed. You cried. You lived. It felt like a chapter of life, a slice of something real and full and true. But when you woke, your clock had barely moved. 2 minutes, perhaps 3, since the moment your REM cycle began, and yet your mind had painted a world that seemed to stretch across time like sunlight spilled across an entire afternoon. This is not illusion. This is how dreams bend the clock. You're not alone in this. Across the world, people wake each morning from journeys longer than their night could hold. A soldier dreams she's walked for days through desert winds. A child dreams of growing up in the span of a single nap. An artist dreams of building a city stone by imagined stone, and when they wake, they carry its streets as if they were real. Why does this happen? Why can the mind fill moments with so much depth in so little time? Part of the answer lies in how dreams are constructed. Unlike waking life, where time is paced by seconds and speech and cause and effect, dreams collapse those distances. They skip, they shift, they imply. A single glance in a dream can carry the weight of an entire history. A single sentence can unfold into an entire life. The mind compresses emotion and meaning into flashes so dense that they feel full, more than full, complete. You drift now into the folds of your sleeping brain. REM sleep is alive with activity. The limbic system, the emotional core, is lit up like sunrise. But the prefrontal cortex, that part of your brain that checks for reality, that tracks time and says that doesn't make sense, is mostly quiet. And so your dreams don't question themselves. They flow. They transform. They suggest instead of prove. This is why a dream can feel like an epic even if it lasts only a handful of seconds. Because in dreams, you don't measure time with clocks. You measure it with depth, with presence, with feeling. You may have dreamed a relationship that grew slowly over months. You may have dreamed a farewell that unravelled over long, aching hours. You may have dreamed the story of a lifetime, but what you really experienced was concentrated emotion unfolding in the shape of narrative. It didn't need an hour or a day. It needed only your surrender. And in that surrender, time stopped being a ruler. It became a mirror, reflecting not what is outside, but what is held within. You think now of the moments in waking life that also defy time. a kiss that felt like eternity, a concert that vanished in a blink, a gaze held across a table so rich you still carry it years later. These too are dreams of a kind, not because they're unreal, but because they show us how real time doesn't always obey the calendar. It follows presence, it follows love, and so, too, do dreams. You drift now toward the next dream already forming. It will not ask for permission. It may not even ask to be remembered, but it will leave something behind, an echo, a feeling, a truth too quiet to be spoken. And when you wake, if you wake, you may find yourself saying, "How long was I gone?" The answer doesn't matter. What matters is that in sleep, you stepped outside the line and into the curve. You were not watching time. You were inside its heart, where minutes can become lifetimes, and lifetimes can fit into a breath. You float now beneath the language of dreams, beyond memory, past shape, into something quieter, something rhythmic. You may not hear it, but your brain is singing, not in words, but in waves, soft, electrical hums that roll gently from neuron to neuron, like the sea stroking the shore in the dark. You're not alone in this rhythm. Every sleeping mind joins the same invisible chorus. Each person, each night, following a silent music that has no tempo and no clock, and yet it keeps perfect time. These are your brain waves, the gentle frequencies your brain uses to guide you through the stages of sleep. They do not count minutes, they do not tick, they flow, they bloom, they shift as you move deeper. You drift now through alpha waves, the first to greet you as you lie down, close your eyes, and begin to slow. Alpha is the sigh, the exhale, the whisper that says, "You are safe now." It lives between waking and sleep, a bridge that does not need to be crossed quickly. Here, thoughts still flutter, but softly. You're not yet dreaming, but you're no longer chasing. Then comes theta, wider, deeper. Theta waves carry you into the tapestry of dreams. They stitch together fragments of sound and sensation into visions that don't follow logic but feel like truth. Theta is the artist painting in the dark, the sculptor of dreams that melt by morning. You may have met theta in daydreams, in meditation, in the soft mind wanderings that happen just before you fall asleep or just as you're waking. Then comes delta, heavy, slow, sacred. Delta waves are the bedrock of deep sleep. They roll like thunder over an open plain. Their frequency is the lowest, sometimes less than 4 beats per second. But in that slowness lies their strength. Delta waves are the custodians of the night. They sweep through your mind, clearing debris, repairing cells, consolidating memories without asking for your attention. They are time's caretakers, not tracking it, but restoring it. Because in deep sleep, time is not something you follow, it's something that heals you. And then, as morning nears, you rise again. Brainwaves climb, delta softens, theta returns, bringing lighter dreams. Alpha reappears with its gentle glow. And sometimes just before you wake you touch beta, the fast-moving rhythm of wakefulness, focus, and intention. It's the beat you carry when you open your eyes, step into the world, and begin again. But even in wakefulness, the echoes remain, because your brain never stops singing. Even now, right now, beneath your resting skull, these waves are moving. Not watching the clock, not counting, just unfolding, just being. You think now of other rhythms, your heartbeat, your breath, the cycles of the moon, the seasons turning whether you notice or not, each one a form of time without numbers. And maybe those are the truer clocks, the ones that move with meaning, not measurement. You drift now through the idea that time is not something you observe from the outside, but something you carry within. Your brain doesn't need hands on a dial to know when to sleep. It doesn't need alarms to find rest. It listens to rhythm, to patterns written in electric pulses and biological tides. And you floating here are part of that symphony. You're not keeping time tonight. You're becoming it. So let the waves move through you. Let alpha, theta, and delta sing you deeper. You don't need to remember their names. They remember you, and they will carry you, wave by wave, into a place where the minutes dissolve and only the music remains. You're deeper now, not just resting, but rooted, still, heavy, soft. This is not the beginning of sleep. This is its sanctuary. You have passed the flutter of entry, the flicker of images, the strange bridges of theta waves. You are now in slow wave sleep, stage 3. The most restorative place your body knows. And here, time does not just slow. It forgets itself entirely. You drift into it like a stone settling at the bottom of a quiet pond, not sinking from weight, but from permission. No need to move, no need to think. Even dreams go silent here. You've entered the timeless garden, the place where your brain cleanses itself, literally. Scientists once thought the brain had no way to flush out waste, no lymphatic system like the rest of the body. But then they discovered something extraordinary. During deep sleep, cerebrospinal fluid flows through your brain in waves. It rises, washes through, and clears out toxins that build up during the day. One of those toxins is beta amyloid, a protein linked to memory loss and Alzheimer's disease. And this washing doesn't happen while you're awake. It waits. For now. For this state. For the moment when your mind is finally still enough to allow healing. Isn't it strange you spend your days thinking, planning, remembering? But the most important work your brain does happens when you're not there to witness it. It happens in the dark, in the deep, in the place where time forgets to tick. You drift now past the structures of thought. The chatter of language is gone. The pressure of memory is gone. Even your sense of self is resting. What's left is pure physiology, cell repair, tissue growth, immune function, all powered by the stillness you feel right now. This is why you wake up with clearer eyes, smoother skin, a feeling of having returned from something sacred, because you have. You've been to the part of night that asks for nothing, gives everything, and time, well, time doesn't follow you here. Ask anyone who slept deeply. They'll tell you they don't remember the middle. They remember falling. They remember waking. But the space between is a blank, a healing blank, a necessary absence. You may dream later. You may feel time swirl in REM's kaleidoscope. But here, in this slow wave, there is no swirl, only rhythm, only breath, only the garden with no clocks. You imagine now a vast field, dark blue, sprinkled with silver, still as midnight. That's what your brain looks like right now. Not silent, but slow, profoundly slow, firing with deep pulses once a second or even less. Delta waves, the heartbeat of deep sleep, ripple across the cortex like distant thunder rolling over hills. And in that rolling rhythm, you are being restored. You're being remembered by your own body, held in the architecture of what makes you you. Time may be moving outside your window. The moon may be shifting overhead. A clock may be clicking softly on the far wall. But in here, time has gone still, and stillness, not speed, is where the real work happens. You drift deeper. You do not fall. You root. You become. You return. So let go of the need to know how long you've been resting. That question does not belong here. In the garden, there is no how long. There is only enough breath, enough stillness, enough healing to carry you forward. Sleep is not the absence of time. It is the space that time steps away from so you can remember what you are made of. So rest. The garden will hold you, and time will wait. It always does. You're somewhere else now. You're not sure how you arrived, but that's the dream's way. No entry, no door, just presence, a new place, a new time. And yet, you feel like you've been here before. Perhaps you have. Perhaps this is not your first journey through this dream. Perhaps time has folded again in the secret places of your sleeping mind. You are dreaming, and in dreams, you are no longer bound by the line. That line so strict by day, with its before, its after. Its ticking metronome has vanished. You're standing in a hallway, or on a beach, or in your childhood home, but it looks different. Not wrong, just slightly off, like time has turned it inside out. This is how dreams speak. In time rearranged, you look to your left and see the past, to your right, the future. But they're not separate. They breathe together. A baby you once held now reaches for your hand as an old friend. A city you've never visited feels familiar, as if your feet have already touched its stones in some forgotten version of tomorrow. This isn't memory. It isn't fantasy. It's something between simulated time. The brain's quiet theatre where sequences are stitched from fragments. Neurologists say that during REM sleep, the mind draws freely from every era you've ever touched. A smell from last week meets a sound from your childhood. An idea from a book you read in high school fuses with the scene you imagined on the train. And suddenly, you're time travelling through something that doesn't need to be real to feel real. You move through the dream not by walking, but by remembering. You're here, then you blink, and you're elsewhere. Yet the story continues. A friend is still beside you, though they were not with you a moment ago. A storm is coming, though the sky was clear, and none of it feels strange, because the part of your brain that would normally question time, that analytical voice that says, "But how did we get here?" is sleeping. Dreams do not report to the clock. They respond only to emotional gravity. What you feel pulls the scene forward. What matters pulls you closer. What aches pulls you backward. You drift now through a dream where time flows sideways. You are a child again briefly. You are old but not tired. You meet someone you've never seen and know them instantly. It makes no sense. And it doesn't need to. Because time in dreams is not about measurement. It is about meaning. You move through a night that spans centuries. You see futures that never came to be. You hear your own voice saying something you didn't know you knew. These are not predictions. They're reflections, possibilities, emotional echoes, the mind playing with time's costume, and sometimes you glimpse something so precise that you wake with a sense of knowing, not knowledge, knowing, a felt truth not bound to facts. How long did the dream last? 2 minutes 20. No one can say, not even you, because dream time does not obey the sun. It obeys sensation, symbol, story. You think now of films that play with time non-linear narratives, flashbacks, flash forwards, worlds built out of broken clocks. That's your brain every night. A filmmaker that doesn't need reels, only sleep. You don't watch the story. You are the story. And the story bends time and like candlelight bend shadows. Softly, effortlessly. You float now out of the dream you can't remember. Only the feeling remains, a sense of something complete, though you cannot name it. And that, dear dreamer, is enough. You have travelled through time tonight, not with machines, not with calendars, but with the ancient magic of the dreaming mind. So sleep deeper still. Time will not chase you. Tonight, you're the clock, and the hour is always now. You're waking now, or maybe you aren't. Your eyes haven't opened, but something in you has risen just slightly toward the surface. The body stays still, the breath is slow. The room is dark or dim or softly glowing with the earliest light. You lie there, quietly wondering, what time is it? How long have I been asleep? But you don't know. Not truly. Because sometime during the night, you surrendered your grip on time. You gave it up like a coat left by the door no longer needed in the shelter of sleep. And now you find yourself in that first soft moment after dreaming, where you are aware of your body but not yet of the world. You know this feeling. You felt it 1,000 times. The gentle confusion, the floating hush, the absence of measurement. Sometimes it's peaceful. Other times you check your clock, hoping hours remain. But behind that wish is something deeper. A recognition that in sleep you vanished from time, and time vanished from you. This is night's gentle amnesia. It's not an accident. It's design. Your brain turns off its timekeeping on purpose so that sleep can do its secret work without interruption. The hippocampus, that curved structure responsible for forming new memories, steps back during deep sleep. It's not broken. It's resting, so the dreams you just lived may already be fading. You might remember a fragment of face, a sentence, a field of impossible flowers, but most of it will dissolve, not lost, just released, like fog that lifted before you could touch it. And the hours you spent asleep you'll never truly know, because the mind does not mark sleep the way it marks wakefulness. You can measure how long you were in bed, but you cannot measure how long you were gone, because sleep, in its deepest layers, takes away your clock and gives you something else. Not numbers, but repair. Not sequence, but rhythm. You float now in that half-wakeful state, where time feels like something you once understood but have gently forgotten. You may feel as though you closed your eyes just a moment ago, or as though an entire lifetime passed since the night began, and both can be true, because in sleep the sense of duration isn't needed. You do not need to know how long the healing took for the healing to happen. You do not need to remember every dream for the dreaming to matter. You do not need to measure what the body and mind do instinctively. Time forgets you so you can forget it. And in that forgetting, you are made new. You think now of anesthesia, how people go under for surgery and awaken with no sense of how long they've been away, or of fainting, or deep meditation, or losing yourself in music or love or laughter. These are all echoes of this same state, the suspension of sequence, the pause in the story. And perhaps that pause is as necessary as the plot itself. You drift now back toward sleep, back toward forgetting, not in fear, not in confusion, in peace. Because sleep is not about remembering, it is about releasing. releasing time, releasing self, releasing the need to know what happens next. So if you wake again soon and wonder where the night has gone, let yourself smile, let yourself sink. You weren't lost. You were only outside the clock, and it was beautiful. You're quiet now, curled in the hollow of rest, wrapped in the hush of night, still moving even when you feel still, because inside you, a rhythm continues, faithful, ancient, invisible. You don't need to wind it. You don't need to see it. It sees you. This is your circadian clock, the timekeeper within. It is not a watch, not a device. It is a whisper of biology, singing in time with the turning of the planet. You are not separate from the Earth's spin. You are timed to it. Your body knows when the sun rises, even with your eyes closed. Your temperature dips in the dark without needing permission. Hormones rise as light begins to return. Even behind your curtains, your heart slows, your brain clears, all without you knowing, all without you trying. This internal rhythm is not guesswork. It is guided by a tiny structure deep in the brain, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN. It sits just above where the optic nerves cross, a cluster of around 20,000 neurons, each pulsing like metronomes. And what do they keep time with? Light. That's their language. Every morning, when light enters your eyes, they receive the message, begin again. Every night, as darkness returns, they whisper, let go. You are not just experiencing night, you are being led through it by the rhythm inside you. You float now into the orchestra of hormones the SCN conducts. Melatonin is one of its instruments. As the sun sets, this hormone begins to rise softly, urging your body towards sleep. It dims your internal lights, lowers your core temperature, relaxes your muscles, slows your thoughts. It does not force, it invites. And then, as morning nears, the symphony shifts. Melatonin falls away. Cortisol, not the villain it's often made to be, rises gently, preparing you to wake, to face the light, to step back into time. All of this happens without you asking. And though you feel like sleep is a journey into timelessness, and in some ways, it is, the truth is that your inner clock is always awake. It does not sleep because it is the ground upon which sleep unfolds, and it's not just tied to sunrise and sunset. It shapes your hunger, your energy, your memory. It nudges you toward alertness in the morning. It drops you into drowsiness in the afternoon, even on cloudy days, even with closed blinds, even in dreams. You are timed to the earth. You're not floating through life. You're dancing to a rhythm older than cities, older than calendars, older than words, and even when you fly across oceans, and your body lags behind, yes, that's jet lag. Your clock is trying to find its way back to the sun, to balance, to rhythm. You drift now into the idea that time is not a human invention. It is a living relationship between your biology and the sky. Every heartbeat echoes the earth's turning. Every breath remembers the cycle of light and dark. You were not meant to conquer time. You are meant to live inside it and sleep. Sleep is where your body returns to that primal music. So rest now. Even as you float in dreams beyond ours, your inner rhythm remains quiet, faithful, true, a pulse that aligns you to stars you've never seen. You're not drifting, you are orbiting. You're moving in time with the earth itself. You're drifting again. But this time, you feel off balance. Not because of the dream, not because of the night, but because something inside you doesn't match the sky above. You've flown across oceans, or you've stayed up too late, or you've simply slipped out of your natural rhythm, and now your body and the sun are no longer speaking the same language. You are experiencing desynchronization. Most call it jet lag, but it's deeper than fatigue. It's your circadian rhythm out of step with the turning of the earth, and your brain not quite sure what time it truly is. You may be standing in daylight, but your melatonin still flows as if it's midnight. You may be in the quiet of dusk, but your heart still beats with the tempo of noon. It feels strange. It is strange, because you were never meant to move faster than the planet, and now you have. You drift now into the science of this confusion. Your inner clock does not update instantly. It needs light. It needs cues. It needs patience. For every hour of time zone change, your body may need a full day to recalibrate. 5 hours ahead, 5 days to fully align. 7 hours behind. Then for a week, you are split. Part of you still asleep in another country. Part of you awake in the one you're standing in, and in between fog, confusion, restlessness, odd hunger, dreams that echo in unfamiliar times. But it's not just travel that causes this. Shift workers know it well. So do night owls pulling all-nighters. So do parents rising with newborns. So do students studying until 3 a.m. and waking at 6. Whenever we live against the light, our bodies resist, not to punish, but to protect. Because your circadian rhythm is not optional. It's a system designed for harmony. And when that harmony breaks, you feel it in every cell. You think now of the Earth itself tilted slightly on its axis. That 23.5 degree lean is the reason for seasons, for variation in day length, for the long, late sunsets of summer and the quick twilights of winter. Your biology evolved under that lean, not in fixed light, but in shifting cycles. That tilt shaped your hormones, it shaped your sleep, it even shaped how cultures tell time. Some rise with the sun, some wait for it to pass, and some, like you, have felt what happens when you leave it behind entirely. You drift through memories now of travelling across worlds, boarding a plane in darkness, arriving in daylight, or stepping off into cold after leaving summer behind. Time feels like a trick then, a joke told by a sky you no longer understand. You wonder, how can the body possibly catch up? And yet, it does. Because the body is patient, it realigns, it listens. It waits for one cue above all others, light. Morning light, in particular, is the anchor. When you step into it, your inner clock takes notice. It begins again, resetting your rhythms, realigning you with the world. You're not broken when you feel disoriented. You're simply reorienting, learning again how to hear the sun. So be gentle with yourself when time feels wrong, when 3 a.m. feels like noon, when dreams come too early, when sleep comes too late. Your body is not confused. It is adjusting, like a compass searching for north after a long storm. And in the meantime, sleep can help. Even fragmented, even imperfect, because the circadian rhythm is not a rigid machine. It's a tide, and even when it's delayed, it always returns. So rest now, wherever you are, whatever time it says. You're not late. You're just arriving on a curve, and curves always find their way back to center. You're floating now, not in water, not in air, but in something stranger, a field you cannot feel, and yet it's always holding you. This is gravity, not the tug that pulls your body to earth, but the silent curve woven into the fabric of space and time. And here, in this quiet moment between waking and dreaming, you begin to feel its whisper, not as weight, but as time itself, bending softly around you. You drift gently through the idea that time is not constant, not everywhere, not always. That the ticking of your watch, the pulsing of your heartbeat, the rise and fall of your breath, all of it changes depending on where you are and how fast you move. It sounds like science fiction, but it is not. It is relativity. You float now beside the thoughts of Albert Einstein, who more than a century ago suggested something quietly revolutionary, that time is not a universal river flowing equally for all. It is a fabric. It can stretch. It can wrinkle. It can slow down in the presence of mass and movement. You drift now near a planet, a heavy one, a place where gravity is strong, where space curves like a bevy blanket, and time bends with it. If you lived there, you would age more slowly than someone far away, not noticeably, not dramatically, but undeniably. This is not theory anymore. It's been measured. Atomic clocks, so precise they can detect time differences in mere billionths of a second, have been flown on airplanes, taken up mountains, buried underground, and they do not agree. A clock on a plane ticks more slowly than one on the ground. A clock at sea level ticks more slowly than one at the top of a tower. Even you, lying in bed tonight, experience time very slightly differently than a person sleeping on a high floor above you. The difference is small, but it is real. Because gravity doesn't just pull on bodies, it pulls on time. You're not just resting tonight, you're participating in a quiet curvature of the universe. Each breath you take happens inside a time that is slightly your own, and yet you never feel it. You do not feel slower, you do not feel stretched, because relativity does not shout, it whispers, like dreams, like thoughts that drift without measure. You float now through the possibility that time is deeply personal, not metaphorically, literally. That your experience of time is shaped by where you stand and how you move. You remember moments that seem to last forever, an accident, a heartbreak, a birth, and others that vanished in an instant, a sunset, a song, a goodbye. Maybe relativity lives not just in physics, maybe it lives in perception. Maybe all of time is curved because we are curved, bent toward meaning, toward memory, toward dreams. You pass now through the thought that sleep itself might be your brain's way of resetting the curve, of releasing you from the strict arrow of time, letting your mind float free in a world where past and future become scenery, where gravity loosens, where time unspools like thread in water. You drift deeper still, knowing now that you're not a machine living in fixed seconds. You're a body inside a field, a breath inside a bend, a dream inside a universe that doesn't move evenly. It curves. It changes. It holds you gently. So sleep now. And if time slows tonight, let it. If it speeds up, let it. You do not need to control the clock, because gravity is already holding you, and time is already flowing in your direction. You are dreaming again. Or perhaps you've just arrived at a memory that hasn't happened yet. You're walking through a hallway that feels familiar, the texture of the wall, the hush of your steps, the light falling just so. You pause, not in fear, not in confusion, but in a curious, aching knowing. I've been here before, but you haven't, not in waking life. This is déjà vu, the flicker of recognition in a place you've never seen, a moment you haven't lived, a memory that rises before its time. It passes quickly, but it leaves behind a shimmer, a soft ripple through your understanding of time. And now, as you float here in the quiet pool of sleep, you wonder what if dreams sometimes come from the future, not like prophecy, not like fortune-telling, but like mist gathering before the rain. You drift now through a dream you once had. Perhaps it was years ago, perhaps it was last week. It didn't seem important at the time, just another image, another scene your sleeping mind assembled, and then, one day, you walked into it, waking, present, and every part of your body whispered, "I know this." Science doesn't know for sure what causes déjà vu. Some researchers think it's a trick of the brain, a misfiring between short-term and long-term memory, a moment that feels old because it was processed twice. Others think it may be the brain testing its internal model of reality, comparing prediction to perception, and still others hold space for mystery, because some people dream of places they've never seen and later visit them. They dream of conversations that later unfold word for word. They dream of people they've never met, but soon will. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe sleep allows the mind to step outside the strict sequencing of daytime time. You drift now through the concept of nonlinear time. The idea that past, present, and future may not be separate islands on a stream, but overlapping waves on a great ocean. In that ocean, dreams may carry echoes from distant shores. Not always, not predictably, but sometimes, just enough to make you pause and wonder, was that memory from the future? Your brain, in REM sleep, is deeply connected to emotion, symbol, and synthesis. It is not concerned with what happened first. It is concerned with what feels real. It draws from your entire life past joys, buried fears, the warmth of a touch, the shape of a possibility. And sometimes those elements converge into a moment that has not yet happened but somehow will. You may not believe in fate. You may not believe in time travel. But you have felt the strange gravity of those moments. You have stood in the center of a scene and felt something is happening exactly as it's meant to. And in that knowing, you felt calm. Not because you understood it, but because some part of you already did. You drift now toward the edge of another dream. It may be a mirror, it may be a door, it may be a scene you will not remember, or a moment you'll recall someday on a bus or a rainy street, or at the sound of a voice, and you'll think this is familiar, and maybe that's the gift of sleep. Not to show you the future, but to remind you that time is not always linear. Sometimes it's circular, sometimes it folds, sometimes it arrives early. So rest. If you dream of tomorrow tonight, let it be soft, let it be yours, and when it comes again, you'll know you've already been held by time's gentle curve. You're still now, but not everyone is. Somewhere, beneath another roof, a body rises quietly from its bed, not with urgency, not with full awareness, but with purpose. Legs swing down, feet touch cool floor, eyes remain open, glassy, distant, but not seeing. The sleepwalker begins to move, not guided by dreams, but by something else, a deeper rhythm, an older script written far below consciousness. You float alongside now, watching gently as they glide through their home. They open a door, they turn a corner, they pour water into a cup. They are not awake, they are not dreaming, they are in between. A state scientists call parasomnia a sleep behavior that bridges action and rest. And in this strange space, time behaves just as strangely. To the sleepwalker, nothing feels rushed, nothing feels planned. They are not aware of how long they've moved or where they've gone. Minutes stretch without measurement. Actions unfold without intention. And the next morning it may all be gone, forgotten, vanished into the same folds that hide most dreams. But make no mistake, this is not chaos. It is rhythm. It is the body's unconscious memory of movement, of space, of repetition. The brain during sleepwalking is partially asleep, partially awake. Some regions, like the motor cortex, are active. Others, like the prefrontal cortex, which tracks decisions and time, remain quiet. It's like a river flowing without a map, but still knowing where to turn. You drift through history now, where sleepwalking has long carried mystery. In old villages, some believed the sleepwalker was touched by the divine, that they moved between worlds. Others whispered warnings: don't wake them, don't interrupt the current, or something sacred might be lost. Today, science sees no magic, only misfiring, incomplete sleep arousals, a brain caught mid-cycle, and yet, watching them, you feel the elegance of the motion. They're not frantic, they're not broken, they're riding a wave we don't yet fully understand. And maybe that's part of time's mystery, that some forms of it don't require awareness, that bodies can move through it without counting it, like clouds gliding without clocks. You drift now through other parasomnias: sleep talking, sleep eating, sleep driving, behaviors that happen without memory, without duration, to the outside world. These episodes may last minutes. To the sleeper, nothing, no story, no time, just a blank in the journal of the night. You begin to wonder, is sleepwalking a mistake, a glitch? Or is it proof that we are more than thoughts, that something deeper in us can carry on even while we disappear? Maybe the body remembers time differently than the mind. Maybe the nervous system has its own clock, one that doesn't tick, but pulses, not in seconds, but in cycles, in familiar motions, in old paths. In gestures long rehearsed, the sleepwalker has returned to bed now, their steps reversed, their body folded again into stillness, and they will not remember, but their clock remembers, and it will continue until morning. So rest now. You need not move through your sleep. You need not walk to go somewhere. Time will still carry you, even in stillness, even in silence, even in the spaces you will never recall, because the body never fully leaves time. It only listens to it more quietly. You're deeper into the night now, though you wouldn't know it. The sky outside is quiet. The room holds its hush. The world seems paused, but inside you, time is shifting again. The night is not one long, level ocean. It is a tide that changes shape as you drift through it, and as you pass into the second half of your sleep, the landscape begins to bloom with new textures, different dreams, different rhythms, a different sense of how time moves. You may not have noticed, because most of this happens in the dark beneath awareness, but your sleep is not the same from beginning to end. The first half of the night is dominated by deep sleep, slow wave, delta thick, timeless and heavy. This is when the body rebuilds, when memories consolidate, when toxins wash away. But now you're beyond that, and something is changing. REM sleep is starting to take the lead. The second half of night is where your dreams gather, where the theatre becomes more vivid, more emotional, more intricate. Each sleep cycle, about 90 minutes long, contains a stretch of REM. But those REM sessions grow longer as the night progresses. Your first dream may have lasted 2 minutes. The next one, 10. But by morning you may be dreaming for nearly an hour at a time. An hour inside a mind-made world. A world that plays by different rules. A world where time expands or vanishes with no warning. This is why those early morning dreams feel richer. They carry a density, a sense of story, a sense of time lived. Even if it was only a flicker on the outside, you drift now into one of those dreams. It feels like memory, but you know it's not. You're on a train. You've always been on it. Or maybe you just boarded. Someone you love sits across from you. They're saying something you need to hear, but you can't quite catch the words. The landscape blurs outside, and time moves like breath, sometimes deep, sometimes shallow. You feel like you've been there for days, but your clock will not agree. That's the paradox of the night's second half. It feels longer, but it's not. It simply holds more story, more emotion, more mystery, and more awareness too. You're closer now to the surface of waking. Your prefrontal cortex is warming back to life, which means your dreams are more coherent. You might even realize you are dreaming. Lucid dreaming happens most often in the second half of night, because your mind is regaining its mirror, the part of you that can reflect on itself. You drift into a lucid moment now. You know it's a dream. You know you are sleeping, and time, in this moment, feels like clay in your hands. You slow it. You bend it. You stretch it out like sunrise over quiet water. It is yours now, and then you forget again. You dissolve back into the story. The narrative folds around you, and time returns to its trickster ways, until at last, your final dream unfolds like a curtain, a scene that feels like closure. You're packing a suitcase, saying goodbye, or arriving somewhere you've always wanted to go, a quiet conclusion, a fading melody, the final hourglass, and soon you will wake. You may feel as if the night was short, but now you know it only felt short because your dreams were full. The second half of night is not the end. It is the unveiling, the part of sleep that tells the most truth in the quietest voice. So stay here just a little longer. Let the longer dreams hold you. Let time bend in the shape of your breath. The night is not nearly over. It's simply become more generous. You're drifting now through the deep folds of your own feelings, not in the way you do by day measuring, thinking, naming them like weather patterns, but in the raw, unclothed way your sleeping mind remembers them. You're dreaming, and suddenly everything matters. A glance, a voice, a silence in the wrong place, a door that won't close, and just like that, you're deep inside a moment that will not end. It stretches, not like time during a meeting, not like waiting in line, but like something suspended, like syrup pouring slowly in the air. You are afraid, or sad, or lost, and the dream doesn't let you move on. It keeps you there, as if it needs you to feel it through. This is the strange alchemy of emotion and time in dreams. It is not just memory that becomes elastic, it is feeling. The stronger the emotion, the longer the moment. You drift now through a scene you are falling, not fast but forever. You know you will not land. The dream makes sure of it, and yet you fall, and fall, and fall. Seconds become centuries, or perhaps you are searching, through rooms that repeat, through hallways that fold into each other. You are not scared, just certain that you need to find something, and you never do. Because the search is the point. The brain, in dreams, does not seek conclusion. It seeks resolution, and sometimes that requires holding a feeling longer than reality would allow. You float now through another kind of dream joy, lightness, a reunion, laughter in a place that doesn't exist. These moments too can stretch, but not in the same way. They drift, like music played in a garden, fading before you can hold the last note. Pleasure in dreams often dissolves faster than fear. No one knows exactly why. Some scientists think it's evolutionary, that the brain gives more weight to threats, even imagined ones, so you'll remember, so you'll adjust, adapt, survive. But in dreams, this mechanism becomes strange, because there are no real threats, only emotional echoes amplified by memory. And so, a single, awkward moment can become a 10-minute chase. A quiet tension can become a labyrinth with no exit. Your brain takes what matters or what once mattered and stretches it into theatre. And you are both actor and audience, watching and feeling, held inside emotional time. You think now of waking life and how emotion alters it too. An hour with someone you love feels like 5 minutes. An uncomfortable silence in a crowded room feels like forever. Time is not objective. Not in dreams, not in life. It is shaped by the heart, by the pulse of what you care about. In this moment, in sleep, you're not measuring time. You are inhabiting it, and every feeling makes it longer or shorter. You drift now through the quiet after the storm. The dream fades, but the feeling remains, a trace on your skin, a heaviness behind your ribs, an echo without sound. You may not remember the story, but your breath is slower now, because you've lived something outside the clock, something shaped by weight, not by seconds. So rest now. If your dream tonight is soft, let it drift by gently. If it is intense, know that it will pass, because no feeling lasts forever, not even in dreams. But while it lasts, it will shape your time, and that, too, is beautiful. You're drifting now, but this time, you drift backward. Not just through memory, but into something older, something earlier than memory itself. You are floating into the mind of a child younger than that, a baby, new to the world, new to time, but already deeply familiar with sleep. You arrive in the stillness of a nursery, a hush thick as cotton, the scent of warm milk, soft fabric, the tiny breath of someone who has not yet learned what a clock is, and yet their sleep is deep, frequent, strange, profound. Because children, especially infants, sleep in a different time, not just in hours, but in experience. Time for them is not a line, it is a sensation. You float now alongside a newborn brain, one still knitting itself together. Billions of neurons firing chaotically, learning how to connect, and already, this baby spends up to 16 hours each day asleep. But this sleep is not like yours. It is lighter, more fractured, dreamier, and far more active. In fact, infants spend more than half of their sleep in REM. Their tiny eyes flicker beneath lids, even though they cannot yet see clearly. Their fingers twitch, their legs curl and uncurl, their breath shudders like wind through autumn leaves, and their dreams we don't know. Science cannot ask them. but we suspect those dreams are rich with sensations, hunger, warmth, the sound of a voice, the brightness of the womb, the echo of a heartbeat that is no longer theirs. Time for them is not being tracked. It is being felt. You drift deeper into this miniature mind, a world without narrative. There is no before or after, only now, only the sensation of being soothed or startled or full. This timelessness is not a defect. It is the foundation of selfhood, because a baby's brain is not just sleeping, it is growing. Sleep for infants isn't just rest, it is architecture. Their REM sleep stimulates neural connections, especially in the visual cortex. Even before they can focus their eyes, their brain is rehearsing how to see. In a way, their dreams build the very senses they will come to rely on. This is why babies tend to sleep in shorter bursts. Their cycles are different, about 50 minutes, not 90. And within those cycles, they drift between quiet sleep and active sleep, not deep and REM, as in adults, but early forms of both. You might picture their sleep like waves over warm sand, repeating, irregular, but always in motion. You begin to realize children do not grow into time. They grow with it, and in their early years, time is not divided. There are no appointments, no alarms, only rhythms, the rise and fall of hunger, the warmth of a body nearby, the dimming of light, the comfort of lullabies sung at no particular hour. You float now into the dream of a toddler. They are older, but still young enough to live outside of chronology. They sleep more at night now. Their brain has begun to adopt the cycles of adults, but still, their dreams are different, vivid, surreal, rich with talking animals, flying bicycles, trees that grow upside down. They do not dream of jobs, or taxes, or deadlines. They dream of symbol, feeling, magic. And those dreams stretch out long and wide because the toddler's sense of time is still in flux. To them, 5 minutes alone can feel like a day. A nap might feel like a voyage. This isn't exaggeration. It's the truth of perception when you have not yet learned to measure time in numbers. You consider now how a child waits for a birthday that feels eternally far away, or how they retell a single memory as if it just happened because to them, it did. Their hippocampus, the part of the brain that stores time sequence memory, is still maturing, so events don't yet arrange themselves into past, present, future. Instead, life feels like a mosaic. Everything is happening at once. And sleep is part of that mosaic. It returns without warning. It leaves just as quickly. And when it does, the child wakes with no clear idea of how long they were gone. Perhaps you remember this from your own early years, waking in a dark car or on the floor after nap time, not knowing whether it was morning or night. You blinked, and time had slipped its label. You hadn't just rested. You had exited the map, and maybe some part of you misses that. Because childhood holds a kind of freedom from clocks, a rhythm that comes from inside, not from the school bell, or the digital alarm, or the calendar. Children live in body time, feeling time, story time, and their sleep is the anchor. It renews them in ways we forget. And perhaps that's why watching a sleeping child makes us feel something holy, because we are watching someone float in a time we once knew, and maybe still carry. Deep down, beneath the meetings, beneath the plans, beneath the ticking, that timeless sleep still waits for us. Each night, you're drifting now out of the nursery, out of the crib, out of the child's slow spiral of dreaming and back into yourself. But something has changed. You carry their sense of time with you unformed, unhurried, untamed, and maybe tonight you'll fall asleep a little softer, not to pass time, but to return to something before time had a name. So rest now. The child in you is still dreaming. Let them. Let time slip. Let sleep hold you without schedule. Let night become a cradle again. You drift now beyond the ordinary bounds of sleep, beyond the ticking of dreams, beyond the quiet loops of deep rest. You are floating into the outer edges of consciousness, a place where time no longer flickers from second to second, but vanishes entirely. This is not dreaming. This is not forgetting. This is something else. You arrive in a space where sleep stretches not for hours, but for weeks, months, sometimes years. You drift now into the body of someone who is asleep, but not in the way you know. Their chest rises, their limbs do not move, their mind, somewhere deep inside, is neither absent nor present. They are in a coma, and time has stopped leaving fingerprints. To the world outside, days pass, seasons change, voices visit, hands are held. But to the sleeper, there is nothing to hold on to. Or perhaps there is everything. For some who return from comas, there are no memories at all. Just a blank stretch, a gentle erasure. They fell asleep on a Tuesday. They woke on a spring morning 10 months later. And in between, no time passed, no sensation, no dream, only stillness. But others describe something stranger. They speak of journeys, of being aware dimly in a world without hours, a place not dark, not bright, but suspended. Some describe colours, some describe a voice, some describe a vast wordless space where they did not know who they were, but they were, and when they awoke, they wept, not always from joy, not always from sorrow, but from the sheer weight of time lost and not felt. You drift now into the mind of a monk. They are seated in stillness, deep in samadhi, a state of meditation so deep that brain activity resembles sleep, and yet they are aware, not of minutes, not of breath, but of presence. They have practiced for years to find this place, to quiet the ego until time dissolves, to sit in silence so still that thought itself becomes like a bird landing only now and then on a branch. For these practitioners, a single hour can pass like a blink, or a few seconds can bloom into eternity, because in this state there is no measurement, there is only being. You drift alongside them now, and you begin to wonder, where is the line between sleep and deep awareness? Is it the presence of thought, the ability to choose, or is it something more elusive, the sense of time moving? Because time, as your mind now knows, is not always marked by clocks or calendars. Sometimes it is marked by change, by experience, by memory, and when those vanish, so does time. You move now into stories of those who have slept for decades, rare conditions, rare awakenings, people who fell into sleep after accidents, illness, or mysterious neurological storms, and then, sometime later, 10 years, 15, 20 they woke up. The world had shifted. The people they knew had grown older. Technology had changed. Buildings had vanished. They felt as though they had closed their eyes and opened them in another century. And in a way, they had. Because while their body remained in time's current aging, healing, surviving, their mind had floated free of the river, and when it returned, it brought with it not just confusion, but awe, Not always joy, but awe, because to lose time so completely is to realize how fragile it is, how dependent we are on the continuity of awareness. And yet you consider perhaps they didn't lose time. Perhaps they simply passed through it in a different way, like a stone sinking slowly through deep water. It still moves, it still changes depth. But to the stone, there is no horizon, only the pressure of gravity, only the silence of surrender. You return now to yourself, to your breath, to the room, to the pulse that continues in your wrist. You are not in a coma, you're not meditating, you're not years away from who you were, but there is something familiar about their stillness, something gentle in the idea that time can pause without ending, and that if it ever does, if you one day drift into such a place, you will not be lost, you will be held, and when you return, if you return, the world will greet you like morning light on skin that forgot how warm the sun could be. So sleep now, not to escape, not to disappear, but to remember that even when time seems gone, it waits, quietly, softly, without keeping score, because you, even in stillness, are enough. And sometimes, stillness is where time becomes its truest self. You're weightless now, cradled by the question you never thought to ask aloud. Not where does time go, not how do we lose it, but this could time itself. Fall asleep, you drift with this thought, soft as down, strange as a feather landing on water without a sound. The room around you fades again, not into darkness, but into stillness. You're no longer moving through time. You're floating beside it, watching, wondering, listening for its breath. Because perhaps time, too, has a rhythm, not a machine's rhythm, not a perfect ticking, but a rhythm like yours, like waves and tides, like lungs and dreams, like the sky turning over not in circles but in sighs. You think now of the great sleeping things of the world, bears in caves, seeds in frozen soil, stars whose light has not yet reached us. They are not gone, they are resting, they are paused in a time that waits. And so you wonder, what if time is not always moving? What if it has its own breath, its own sleep? Physicists have asked questions like this, not with lullabies, but with equations. They study the universe and its strange silence. The cosmic microwave background, aglow from the birth of everything, still hums in every direction. And yet, the universe isn't ticking the way we expect. It is expanding, not steadily, but accelerating. And the further away things get, the colder they become. Some scientists believe the universe is heading toward a state of ultimate stillness. They call it the heat death, a time when all energy is used, all stars extinguished, all movement ceased. But you wonder, is that death, or is it cosmic sleep, a rest so complete, so deep, that even time lays down its head? You drift further now, beyond galaxies, beyond light. You're in the space between spaces, the dark matter, the void, the silence between atoms, and in that silence just you feel it. The pulse beneath the silence. A rhythm so slow you can barely sense it. But it is there. Perhaps even the universe needs to sleep, to forget itself, to rest from its endless unfolding. Perhaps it does not fear sleep as we do. Perhaps it embraces it, because in sleep there is no need to keep time, no need to mark progress, no need to prove you are alive. You simply are, and maybe time too wants to simply be, not flow, not tick, not stretch, just rest. You think now of your own life moments when time felt fast, slow, stalled, lost. Moments when nothing seemed to move, and yet everything changed. Grief, waiting, wonder. These were times when time itself seemed to take a breath, to hold still, to pause in your hands like a bird that doesn't fly away. Could that have been time falling asleep with you? Could time, at its deepest level, be more like you than you knew? You drift now into the spaces of the brain that mirror the cosmos. Your default mode network, active when you're daydreaming, wandering, not doing anything in particular. It hums with the same quiet energy as galaxies turning. It does not rush. It does not count. It rests and reflects and reboots. Perhaps this too is time resting within you. You think now of moments shared in stillness, holding someone's hand, staring at the ceiling, watching a leaf float down. You were not doing anything. But something sacred was happening. Time wasn't asleep, but it was resting, letting you feel without urgency, letting life unfold without instruction. And perhaps tonight, as you fall deeper into sleep, you are joining time in its own descent, into a silence that is not empty, but full. A silence where stars take their time, where thoughts dissolve without needing answers, where clocks blink softly and forget their names. So rest now. You do not need to track this moment. You do not need to hold it. It is already holding you. And maybe time, as it breathes beside you, is doing the same, falling asleep with the stars, with the oceans, with your breath. Let it. Let yourself. Because even time deserves to dream. You're returning now, but not back to the beginning, not to a finish line, not to a destination missed. You're returning to something you never truly left. A center, a quiet. A truth so simple it had to be whispered across 20 chapters of silence and stars. You were never late. You were never behind. You were already where you needed to be. Time did not outrun you. It did not slip away. It was not something lost in the folds of sleep, or the blur of days, or the slow melting of memory. Time was waiting for you to feel it fully, not with seconds, not with numbers, but with your breath, your soft, dreaming breath. You float now in the hush between waking and sleep, a sacred hour, not because of its position on the clock, but because of its weight in the soul. You've wandered far tonight. You've stepped through REM loops and lucid spirals, through the dreams of children and the stillness of comas, through gravity's pull on time and the flicker of moments that felt like forever. You've asked strange questions, held them gently. You did not need answers, only the willingness to wonder. And now, here you are, at the close of night, but not at the end, because sleep is not an ending. It is a pause that holds you until you're ready to begin again. Time has never demanded you move faster. That was the illusion. It has always asked only one thing: be present and listen. You feel now that the ticking clock was never your master. It was a metronome you could set down any time. You think back to the earlier seconds of this night's journey, to the moment you asked, "What happens to time when I fall asleep?" And now you answer. It softens, it breathes, it rests beside you, and it becomes something new. It becomes yours. So now, let it go. Let go of the thought that you missed something. Let go of the need to catch up. There is no race here, no chase, only unfolding. Time is not behind you. Time is not ahead. Time is within, right here, right now, in this breath. Let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw unclench. Let your eyes stay closed or drift that way. There's nothing more to understand tonight. You've wandered through time's secret rooms, and all have welcomed you without a key. Now you are home. Not the kind of home with doors and beds and walls, but the kind of home where you're held by something older than history. You are held by rhythm, by the same rhythm that shapes tides and planets and the turning earth. And you don't need to feel it. It feels you. It rocks you gently now, like a child carried across the border between day and night, like a whisper returned to the mouth that made it, like light resting after a long journey across the stars. You are still, and in that stillness, you are expanding. Time is not stopping. It is simply stretching, becoming wide enough to include your sleep. You're not separate from it. You're the moment it was waiting for. So breathe, sink, float. And if thoughts return, let them pass like birds across a quiet sky. You do not need to follow. You do not need to fly. Just stay here, in the hush, in the soft, in the place where time has finally learned to sleep beside you. Let your body forget clocks. Let your mind release questions. Let your breath be the only rhythm that matters now. You are never late to the stars. You were made of them, and they are still keeping time with you. Good night, my dear sleepy traveller. You have arrived. You are here. You are enough. And time has been waiting to rest with you.